massive interest from the White House. Yeah.
You know, and Geeta, I do think it is worth reflecting on how all of this played out, because remember, this was such a precision from the gunman from that roof, clearly premeditated. Coming to the campus shortly before the event, making his way through a stairwell, climbing a building, firing that precision shot, and then running across a building and jumping off a building, escaping into the wooded area that borders this campus for leading into the nearby community. And it's there in that wooded area that officials were able to pick up that high-powered rifle. So much that investigators have to work with here for a case against this individual who is now in custody. But it really is just shocking to think about how this suspect planned this and executed this, something that I'm sure authorities will be addressing here.
And there will be now on the suspect and his family. If the is confirmed, U.S. media naming the suspect as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, and apparently it does seem that Robinson lives in southern Utah, according to the BBC's U.S. partner CBS, and did apparently confess to his father, Donald Trump, giving an interview to Fox News, saying that it was the father that led the son to the police. And Neda, we are waiting out for this news conference. Do we know who we're going to hear from?
Yes, Geeta, we know that the FBI director himself, Kash Patel, has flown in to Utah. We are expecting to hear from the FBI special agents in charge of this, as well as the Utah Office of Public Safety. And look, no doubt that everyone is grateful that this didn't end in a shootout. We often do see cases where this ends differently. There are other times where they are able to either catch the suspect themselves, but here, remarkably, they had somebody turn the suspect in. We are seeing a number of individuals start walking this way. So I will give you a heads up, Geeta, if someone is about to approach the podium to speak. But I can tell you that I do see Kash Patel, the FBI director, now walking this way, followed with the governor, Spencer Cox of Utah. He is here now. You'll see them walking behind me in just a moment. Hello, Governor. And we'll see several other local officials. So I will just turn right behind me, Geeta, so you can tune into the press conference.
Today's conference, we will hear from Governor Cox, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Sheriff Mike Smith. We also have with us Utah DPS Commissioner Bo Mason, Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Bowles, and local and federal law enforcement partners. Following the remarks today, Governor Cox, Director Patel, and Commissioner Mason will take questions. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On the evening of September 11th, a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident. This information was relayed to the Utah County Sheriff's Office and scene investigators at Utah Valley University. This information was also conveyed to the FBI. Investigators reviewed additional video footage from UVU surveillance and identified Robinson arriving on UVU campus in a gray Dodge Challenger at approximately 8:29 a.m. on September 10th, in which he observed on video in a plain maroon t-shirt, light colored shorts, a black hat with a logo, and light-colored shoes. When encountered in person by investigators in Washington County on September 12th, in the early morning hours, Robinson was observed in consistent clothing with those surveillance images. Investigators interviewed a family member of Robinson who stated that Robinson had become more political in recent years. The family member referenced a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner prior to September 10th, and in the conversation with another family member, Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. The family member also confirmed Robinson had a gray Dodge Challenger. Investigators identified an individual as the roommate of Robinson. Investigators interviewed that roommate, who stated that his roommate, referring to Robinson, made a joke on Discord. Investigators asked if he would show them the messages on Discord. He opened it and showed several messages to investigators and allowed investigators to take photos of the screen as each message was shown by Robinson's roommate. These photos consisted of various messages, including content of messages between the phone contact named Tyler with an emoji icon and Robinson's roommate's device. The content of these messages included messages affiliated with the contact Tyler, stating a need to retrieve a rifle from a drop point, leaving the rifle in a bush, messages related to visually watching the area where a rifle was left, and a message referring to having left the rifle wrapped in a towel. The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact Tyler also mentioned that he had changed outfits. I know there's been speculation as well as to the writing on those casings, those bullet casings, and I believe we have that as well, and I will share that with you now. So the area north of Campus Drive Road, where the suspect crossed over, you saw some of that in the video that we released last night, consists of a grassy area with trees on the edge of the UVU campus. Investigators discovered a bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark-colored towel. The rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 .30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. Inscriptions on a fired casing read, "Notices bulges, capital OWO, what's this, question mark." Inscriptions on the three unfired casings read, "Hey fascist, exclamation point, catch, exclamation point." Up arrow symbol, right arrow, and symbol, and 3 down arrow symbols. A second unfired casing read, "Oh Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Bella Chow, Chow Chow." And a third unfired casing read, "If you read this, you are gay, LMAO." We are indebted to law enforcement across the state who's worked seamlessly together, local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and our federal partners with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We're grateful for everyone who worked together in such a short amount of time to find this person and to bring justice. I want to thank the public who has been so engaged, reviewing videos, helping us with sending in tips, and helping us get to this point. I want to thank the family members of Tyler Robinson who did the right thing in this case and were able to bring him into to law enforcement as well. I especially want to thank the family of Charlie Kirk, Erica, Charlie's parents, his children. I want us to be thinking of them as we bring justice to this case. They will be involved in that justice. We will be working very closely with them as we move through this process as well. This is a very sad day for our country, a terrible day for the state of Utah, but I'm grateful that at this moment we have an opportunity to bring closure to this very dark chapter in our nation's history. With that, I will now turn the microphone over to the Director of the FBI, Kash Patel.
Thank you, Governor. This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. The FBI and our partners are proud to stand here today together to bring justice to the family of Charlie Kirk and honor his memory. I want to express my deep gratitude to President Trump, the Vice President, and the entire White House who have been so incredibly supportive with both resources and just personally to the FBI as a team. They had our backs the entire way, and I just want to express my gratitude for giving us the resources we need to operate in this space to bring this sort of justice at this sort of speed. In 33 hours, we have made historic progress for Charlie. Governor Cox, our partnership has been absolutely incredible these last few days. Our partnership will endure. Your state and local partners, your sheriffs, your DPA community has been unbelievably impressive in the hardest of times. And a case like this cannot be solved, cannot be brought without partnering with your state and local authorities. The FBI has a certain role to play. We will play that role, and we will lead out for the federal government. Governor Cox, we are so grateful for your state partnership that led out on this investigation. A little bit of the timeline. Charlie was shot at 12:23 p.m. on Wednesday. The first FBI agents arrived on scene in 16 minutes with chiefs of police at 12:39 and secured the scene. The FBI immediately launched fixed-wing assets. We utilized these assets to transport personnel, specialty technicians, hostage rescue teams. We also utilized these assets to go back and forth from the East Coast and here in Utah to transport forensic evidence and other evidence that will be analyzed and is being analyzed at our FBI laboratories in Quantico and other laboratories, including the ATF. At my direction, the FBI released the first set of FBI photos of the suspect at 10 a.m. local time on 9/11. Then, shortly thereafter, the FBI reward of $100,000 was released at 10:45 a.m. local. Myself and Deputy Director Bondino arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9/11. The governor led a press conference last night at approximately 8 p.m. where, at my direction, the FBI released a never-before-seen video of the suspect. We also released new images to the public of the suspect. And just last night, the suspect was taken into custody at 10 p.m. local time. In less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise, thanks to the full weight of the federal government and leading out with the partners here in the state of Utah and Governor Cox, the suspect was apprehended in a historic time period. And I want to highlight what Governor Cox said. This would not have been possible without you, the media, and you, the public. That's why we went so public, so fast, and we're so transparent, and we're committed to that transparency. The crime scene, just a little bit there. It is a large crime scene. State and local authorities, along with federal authorities, processed that crime scene quickly. And I even had the ability to walk through that crime scene and walk through the steps the suspect took to learn more about what was needed and what resources we need to bear to create a full picture for the FBI and leadership back in Washington. Furthermore, thankfully, the state and local partners, forensic evidence has been seized and continues to be garnered. Forensic evidence has already been evaluated at FBI laboratories in Quantico and state and local authorities here. We will continue to process evidence as we see it, as we collect it, and we will continue to deliver to Governor Cox's name. Last night, we had a total of approximately 7,000 leads. As of this morning, thanks to your great work, we have over 11,000 leads that were called in to the FBI. And we are running out every single lead that we can. Every one of those leads will be run out. The arrest is a testament to the dedication of good law enforcement being great, and partnerships in law enforcement, which I've tried to highlight as my tenure as the director of the FBI. There is no better relationship for law enforcement than the FBI to partner with state and local authorities, and you've seen it here in these last few days. The FBI Salt Lake field office, along with our offices in LA, Phoenix, Denver, San Antonio, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, our headquarters component in Quantico, all participated the FBI, I want to express my deep gratitude to the employees of the FBI, the men and women, the evidence response team tacticians, the special operators, the agents, the support staff. You have done monumental work in historic time when the public, who had a right to demand such an expeditious solving of an investigation, the FBI answered that call diligently, critically important to our nation, and we delivered. And I'm proud to be their leader, and I'm proud to be the director of the FBI. This is very much an ongoing investigation, as the governor said. And we will continue to work with state and local authorities to develop the investigation, to provide them the evidence they need for their ongoing prosecutions. And we will be here to answer every call they absolutely have, as long as it takes, for as long as we need to find and apprehend whatever suspects were involved in this crime. Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Thank you, and good morning. I'd just like to take a few minutes as the sheriff to express my gratitude for everybody who has played a part in this investigation. As you know, it's been a vast, complicated, and a very, very fast-paced investigation. You're looking at people standing up here who are running on, if they got an hour's sleep in the last couple of days, they're probably lucky. It has been very taxing. It has been so impressive, speaking on behalf of the local law enforcement, to see the cooperation that we've seen in this case. Across the state, sheriffs, chiefs, our state partners have stepped up and have come to the call on anything that we needed. Our county chiefs have been phenomenal. Our Utah County Attorney, Jeff Gray, who's standing up here with us, has been phenomenal in leading us through this investigation. I would like to thank the federal government for their resources, their assets. Our local team here, our FBI team, has been extraordinary in helping us work through this and bring this person to justice. Most of all, I would like to thank the public, and specifically, I would like to thank the public who turned to prayers and who turned to positiveness for us. I would like to thank them on behalf of the law enforcement community, because we needed those prayers. That's what we needed to get through this. We needed your support, and you gave it to us. We needed your patience, and you gave it to us. And I would like to thank you for the Kirk family, because that's what they need, is your support and your prayers. And that will get us through all of this. So thank you, everybody, for everybody that has stepped up. We've had such a phenomenal response to this. Thank you.
I also want to give special thanks to the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. Their unwavering support and their commitment to justice is shown true here. And without AG Bondi and Attorney General Todd Blanche and the resources they brought to bear, we would not have been able to complete our mission. And I just want to say a special thanks. It's an honor to be a part of the Department of Justice.
Thank you again to our incredible law enforcement team who has worked so hard. Sheriff, I got a solid 9 minutes last night, so I'm probably the most well-rested person up here. Ladies and gentlemen, I get the microphone, so I hope you'll permit me a moment just to share a few more thoughts about where we are and how we got here, and maybe a little bit of where we go from here. I don't want to get too preachy, but I think it's important that we, with eyes wide open, understand what's happening in our country today. I've heard people say, well, why are we so invested in this? There's violence happening all across our country, and violence is tragic everywhere. And every life taken is a child of God who deserves our love and respect and dignity. This is certainly about the tragic death, assassination, political assassination of Charlie Kirk. but it is also much bigger than an attack on an individual. It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals. This cuts to the very foundation of who we are, of who we have been, and who we could be in better times. Political violence is different than any other type of violence for lots of different reasons. One, because in the very act that Charlie championed of expression, that freedom of expression that is enshrined in our founding documents, in having his life taken in that very act, makes it more difficult for people to feel like they can share their ideas, that they can speak freely. We will never be able to solve all the other problems, including the violence problems that people are worried about, if we can't have a clash of ideas safely and securely. Even, especially those ideas with which you disagree. That's why this matters so much. Over the last 48 hours, I've been as angry as I have ever been, as sad as I have ever been. And it was, as anger pushed me to the brink, it was actually Charlie's words that pulled me back. I'd like to share some of those. And specifically right now, if I could, I need to talk to the young people in our state, in my state, and all across the country. As President Trump reminded me, he said, you know who really loved Charlie? The youths. And he's right. Young people love Charlie, and young people hated Charlie. And Charlie went into those places anyway. And these are the words that hit me. Charlie said, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. He said, we can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. The only way out of the labyrinth of suffering is to forgive. Welcome without judgment, love without condition, forgive without limit. He said, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. A few months ago, I referenced last night, Charlie posted to social media, when things are moving very fast and people are losing their minds, it's important to stay grounded. Turn off your phone, read scripture, spend time with friends, and remember, internet fury is not real life. It's going to be okay. He again said, when you stop having a human connection with someone you disagree with, it becomes a lot easier to commit violence. He said, what we as a culture have to get back to is being able to have a reasonable agreement, where violence is not an option. Now, again, to my young friends out there, you are inheriting a country where politics feels like rage. It feels like rage is the only option. But through those words, we have a reminder that we can choose a different path. Your generation has an opportunity to build a culture that is very different than what we are suffering through right now. Not by pretending differences don't matter, but by embracing our differences and having those hard conversations. I think we need more moral clarity right now. I hear all the time that words are violence. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. And there is one person responsible for what happened here, and that person is now in custody and will be charged soon and will be held accountable. And yet, all of us have an opportunity right now to do something different. I want to thank my fellow Utahns. This bad stuff happens, and for 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us, that somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I had hoped for, just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here. And it was one of us. But I want you to look at how Utahns reacted the last 2 nights. There was no rioting. There were no cars set afire. There was no violence. There were vigils and prayers and people coming together to share the humanity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I believe is the answer to this. We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes. Because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse. But see, these are choices that we can make. History will dictate if this is a turning point for our country. But every single one of us gets to choose right now if this is a turning point for us. We get to make decisions. We have our agency. And I desperately call on every American, Republican, Democrat, liberal, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all of us to please, please, please follow what Charlie taught me. I'll just conclude with words I share often from a friend and author, Yuval Levin, who was asked if he was optimistic about our country. And he said, I'm not optimistic. He said, I hate optimism. God, that sounds bad. But he said, optimism is a vice. It's this idea that good things are just going to happen. And he said, in the history of the world, good things have never just happened. He says, I'm not optimistic, but I am hopeful. And hope is the virtue that sits between the vices of optimism and pessimism. Hope is the idea that good things are going to happen because we can make them so. I still believe in our country. And I know Charlie Kirk believed in our country. I still believe that there is more good among us than evil. And I still believe that we can change the course of history. I'm hopeful because Americans can make it so. Ladies and gentlemen, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Can you speak to whether the suspect is speaking with authorities and his demeanor, Tyler Robinson, when he turned himself in?
I cannot speak to that.
How do you interpret the embraces on casing?
Well, I will leave that up to you to interpret what those engravings mean. I think the clearest one that says "catch fascist," there's not. And by the way, that's like catch like a ball, catch this. That's I think that speaks for itself. Please.
Beyond that, is there anything in your view that you discovered that may have radicalized or changed things or prompted to make such a person?
There's nothing more that we can share at this time.
You indicated you've been communicating with a friend on Discord about the gun. Do you anticipate any more arrests?
We do not at this time have any information that would lead to any additional arrests. Yes, but the investigation is ongoing. Yes, so right now, Mr. Robinson has been booked into Utah County Jail. You heard the president President this morning report that that he was taken into custody, that his family and a friend helped to deliver him into custody of law enforcement in Washington County. For those of you that don't know where Washington County is, it is the southwesternmost part of the state of Utah. It's about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive from here, where we are right now, and that's where he lived and where they turned him in. Please go here. I can't share any more than what I've already shared. Yeah. So how we obtained the gun. The gun was found here. So I don't have much more details on that. We do know that he drove. We had his car here on campus, and then we had his car going south back to the St. George. It's actually the city of Washington in Washington County. I'm sorry. We don't have any information that will lead us to believe that. Yes, in fact, it was just released. Yes. I can't answer that right now. Yeah, thank you. Over. I absolutely believe that this is a watershed in American history. Yes. The question is, what kind of watershed? And that chapter remains to be written. Is this the end of a dark chapter in our history, or the beginning of a darker chapter in our history? Look, I mean, if you look at true political assassinations in this country of someone of this stature, this feels a lot like the late 60s, and having one so gruesomely displayed on camera in all of our hands and in all of our pockets. We are not wired as human beings biologically, historically. We have not evolved in a way that we are capable of processing those types of violent imagery. And by the way, we've seen another one with a gruesome stabbing very recently that went viral. This is not good for us. It is not good to consume. Social media is cancer on our society right now, and I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community. That is happening, and it's happening organically right now. I had a friend in a small city in Utah who said, we're getting together, the Republicans and Democrats in my little town are getting together to have a discussion last night, just to find a way to find their bad angels. So yes, this could be. I mean, again, you have to go back to JFK to have seen a video live of something like this happening. I wasn't born until 1975, but I know that things were really dark in the late 60s. Sorry to some of you. I know some of you were there. This is our moment. Do we escalate, or do we find an off-ramp? And again, choice. It's a choice, and every one of us gets to make that choice. Two more questions right here.
Could we clarify that the release of those enhanced images and APM timeline Director Patel gave us led to the arrest of 10 p.m. direct connection between those two events?
I cannot comment if there is a direct connection or not, but all I can say is that that through some process, the family came to know that this had happened.
One more thing, could you clarify the clothing issue you mentioned earlier? Was he changing outfits?
Correct. Yes. So when he's first spotted on campus, he has different clothing on, and then he changes clothing on the roof, and then changed back into that clothing at some point, so that when he was apprehended, when he was arrested, the clothing matched the clothing he had on before the shooting here at UVU. Last question here. Yes.
Suspect was from Utah. Can you tell us a little bit more about where was he that you're actually?
Yeah. So I don't have any information on the mental illness part. He was not a student here at UVU. He was living and and had lived for a long time with his family in Washington County, in the southernmost part of Texas. Thank you, everyone, for your great work in getting this information out. Just say process-wise, this may be important. I know many of you aren't familiar with the process in Utah. I think it's important that you understand that. Basically, we have 3 days for charging documents to be filed. A CI will be filed. We'll have more information then, more detailed information as those charging documents are filed in preparation for a preliminary hearing. So 3 days. So we would anticipate then that early next week those charging documents will be filed. We will obviously be working. The county attorney will be working very closely with Mr. Kirk's family as those documents and decisions are prepared and made. Thanks, everyone.
And that is the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, speaking there. Alongside him, speaking to reporters, was the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, and other law enforcement officials. But Governor Cox spending the greatest amount of time speaking to reporters there. Just to recap, and there was a lot to go through there, just to recap the key points. He is saying that 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who is the suspect in the shooting of Charlie Kirk, was persuaded to hand himself in by a family member. He says a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who then contacted a sheriff with information that Robinson had confessed or implied that he had committed the shooting. We also heard him asked towards the end of that news conference about the clothing that Robinson was wearing. He arrived apparently at the university in one set of clothing. Governor Cox said that he changed on the roof from which it is alleged he shot Charlie Kirk, and then subsequently changed back into that original set of clothing. We heard that a member of the suspect's family has told investigators that Tyler Robinson had become more political in recent years. This family member recalled a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner, mentioned that Charlie Kirk was coming to Utah Valley University, and talked about why he didn't like him and the viewpoints he had. And the family member, according to this report, said that Robinson had said Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. My colleague Regina Vanathan is with me here in the studio, has been listening to all of that as well. So a bit more detail emerging, and really, really interesting as well, Regina, to hear that longer statement from the governor explaining why he said we are so invested in this act of violence, given that there is violence happening right across the US.
Yeah, that was interesting. He said that this killing of Charlie Kirk was an attack on our ideas. He talked about a wave of political violence that we've seen in recent months. Of course, those two attempts on President Trump's life, the Democratic Representative Melissa Hoffman in Minnesota, who's killed alongside her husband in recent months as well. There have been a number of acts of political violence. And he talked also about how young people need to come together in the aftermath of this. He talked about how there was no violence in his state in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's killing. But he also sort of made an appeal, didn't he, Anita, to people to come together and cross the political divide and have conversations. He said, and he quoted the words of Charlie Kirk, saying, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. So we had two elements from the governor there, didn't we, from Governor Cox? One, giving us an update that you've outlined what more we know about the ongoing investigation, but one that was a broader appeal. The other phrase that stuck with me when he quoted Charlie Kirk was just saying, forgive people as well, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. So a real call for unity, as well as an update, of course, Anita.
Very, very interesting to hear that. He said freedom of expression is enshrined in the US Constitution. Having Charlie Kirk having his life taken while in the act of expressing his thoughts makes it difficult for others to speak freely. So a real appeal, as you say there, Regina, to people in America, and especially young people. I think you will have heard from the governor there, Spencer Cox, to really think carefully about how they respond to this. He talked about the cancer of social media. That was the phrase he used, and he urged people to, put their phones down and to talk to their families and to step away from social media for fear that that stokes these feelings of anger and rage.
And Anita, what struck me, I lived in America during 2016 and the election around, and then before and after, of course, President Trump took office for the first time, and there was definitely a feeling of polarisation then, people falling out for different views on social media. I remember spending time with some organisations that tried to work at grassroots to get people together from polarising views and try and get them around the same table. And it feels like that call to action came again today from Governor Cox. I was quite struck by that, because normally when you see these FBI conferences, they're much more online. They talk about an update on crime. You hear from the sheriff, and they're not as emotional. The other thing, though, to point out is, of course, Kash Patel. Because, of course, he began by thanking President Trump. He said he was proud that the FBI had worked the way they had. He talked about having now some 11,000 leads called in. But, of course, let's not forget, Anita, there have been questions about the FBI's response. Why it took so long for them to actually apprehend their main suspect. Because, of course, in the immediate aftermath of that attack, 2 people were taken into police custody and very quickly released. And, of course, we had a man with violence happening right across the US. Yeah, that was interesting. He said that this killing was an attack on our ideas. He talked about a wave of political violence that we've seen in recent months. Of course, those 2 attacks
arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9. The governor led a press conference last night.
Have come to the call on anything that we needed.
Which are me. I'll conclude with where they share often from. I absolutely believe that this is a watershed.
Speaking to reporters was the director of the FBI, Kash Patel, and other law enforcement officials, but Governor Cox spending the greatest amount of time speaking to reporters there. Just to recap, and there was a lot to go through there, just to recap the key points, he is saying that 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who is the suspect in the shooting of Charlie Kirk, was persuaded to hand himself in by a family member. He says a family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who then contacted a sheriff with information that Robinson had confessed or implied that he had committed the shooting. We also heard him asked towards the end of that news conference about the clothing that Robinson was wearing. He arrived apparently at the university in one set of clothing. Governor Cox said that he changed on the roof from which it is alleged he shot Charlie Kirk, and then subsequently changed back into that original set of clothing. We heard that a member of the suspect's family has told investigators that Tyler Robinson had become more political in recent years. This family member recalled a recent incident in which Robinson came to dinner, mentioned that Charlie Kirk was coming to Utah Valley University, and talked about why he didn't like him and the viewpoints he had. And the family member, according to this report, said that Robinson had said Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate. My colleague Regina Vajanathan is with me here in the studio, has been listening to all of that as well. So a bit more detail emerging, and really, really interesting as well, Regina, to hear that longer statement from the governor explaining why he said we are so invested in this act of violence, given that there is violence happening right across the US.
Yeah, that was interesting. He said that this killing Charlie Kirk was an attack on our ideas. He talked about a wave of political violence that we've seen in recent months. Of course, 2 attempts on President Trump's life. The Democratic Representative Melissa Hoffman in Minnesota, who was killed alongside her husband in recent months as well. There have been a number of acts of political violence. And he talked also about how young people need to come together in the aftermath of this. He talked about how there was no violence in his state in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's killing. But he also sort of made an appeal, didn't he, to people to come together and cross the political divide and have conversations. He said, and he quoted the words of Charlie Kirk, saying, when people stop talking, that's when you get violence. So we had two from the governor there, didn't we, from the Cox? One, giving us an update that you've outlined what more we know about the ongoing investigation, but one that was a broader appeal. The other phrase that stuck with me when he quoted Charlie Kirk was just saying, forgive people as well, always forgive your enemies. Nothing annoys them so much. So a real call for unity, as well as an update of course.
Very, very interesting to hear that. He said,
Wow, that was insane. Thank you everybody for joining me. I just wanted to break the news. I'm sure you've heard it everywhere. But man, he's really young. Yeah, Ben Mustang, good to see you. Real young, 22-year-old. Yeah, they went over some key points there, and damn, that's wild. That's here's the rooftop. Person on the rooftop, and then the stage. I mean, look at that. So, and then he goes off the roof back there. So, damn, that's really interesting. And shit, glad they caught the dude. But that's it. Yeah, I'll see if I can go live later on, cover some more cases. And dang, that's wild. Yeah, I'm glad they caught the kid. And shit, justice. Yeah, thank you everybody. And I'll see if I can come on live, cover some more cases later on today. Okay, thank you.